Good morning. It is 6:35 a.m. on Monday, October 1st, 2018. I'm Christiana Ellis and I just got up. This is 5 more minutes. I have a little bit of a headache. I think I perhaps didn't have enough caffeine yesterday. Didn't feel like I needed it yesterday, but I might be in a little bit of a withdrawal thing, so I am drinking tea. One of my favorite things about the weather getting cooler is like, oh yeah, tea. And I know in theory I could drink tea when it's hot outside, but why? Anyway, I did a bunch of stuff over the weekend and I feel like there's so many things to talk about. On at least the three big highlights, I think, is on Saturday, I went to the Boston Festival of Independent Gaming, BostonFIGFest. I think I actually maybe should double check that I have the FIG acronym correct, because FIGFest seems weird because that would be Festival of Independent Gaming Festival. So maybe the F is actually something else? I don't know. Doesn't matter. Who cares? Anyway, there was, at least at first, a little bit of an anxiety feeling from me going in, not really even for myself, but if you have ever been to conventions, sci-fi conventions or video game conventions of those sorts of things, and especially in the dealer room, there is that same, well, so even if you haven't been to anything like that, you know those people who give out samples at the grocery store? And I don't know if you ever feel this way, but occasionally I see those people looking a little bit forlorn because nobody seems to want to try their free samples at the moment, and they're kind of just standing there a little awkwardly, unable to connect with anybody, and putting themselves out there and not being essentially in demand at the moment. And in that setting, I feel, I would call it empathy, except that it's probably more projected than real. And so in a setting like the Boston Fig, there's all of these people who have made their games and they're putting them out there, and they have like little demo versions there for people to play. And it's that same sort of thing of like, hey, come try play this game. And there's actually lots of people there to play. And so, after a certain point, it's the challenge was not, oh my gosh, nobody is at that table, and so it would feel weird and clingy or needy if I were to go over there and be the only one, and that's why I'm anxious. But it was actually more likely to be a thing of like, well, there's a crowd, and I wouldn't be able to play that game right now because they've already got one going in the middle, and so, but there was that reflected feeling of anxiety, like I am projecting onto them that in their position I would be feeling forlorn, and therefore I'm stressed out by imagining that feeling. And yet, at the times that I've actually done that sort of thing, like sat at a dealer table at a con, I didn't actually feel that way. So, anyway, I played a number of fun games. I played a video game. I think the only video game I played a couple of video games. But the one that made the biggest impression on me was called Austin Translation. And it was essentially a simple Steam-based strategy game where you played a heroine like in an Austen novel. And so you were one of 5 competing for 3 eligible bachelors, and you try to sabotage their rivals and guess what the bachelor, your chosen suitor, wants. And the goal, of course, at the end is to get married. And it was really charming. I liked it a lot. And then I played a few board games, including one called Aloft, which is all about building a fleet of airships and exploring this territory. And that was I just loved the aesthetics of that. And then I played one called Crumbs, where it had this neat mechanic. It was basically about little critters fighting for food and territory in a park. So there's like ducks and pigeons and squirrels and chipmunks. And it had this neat mechanic where you had all these little wooden cubes, which are crumbs, and then you would drop them onto the board, and there was a little plastic fence to keep them from spilling out everywhere. But then, depending on where they land, it randomizes, where the crumbs land for that round, and that one was a lot of fun too. And that one, I guess, actually ended up winning the award later in the day. And so I played a handful of others, and I actually kind of wrote, I think, an update post on Twitter, just kind of summing up the ones that I played. But overall, it was a fun day. Yeah, there was a couple of others. I'm going to mention Someone Has Died, which I actually might talk a little bit more about at some point because I've had for actually a couple of years now a vague idea for a game that I think would be fun, but couldn't quite crack the mechanics of how it would work. And now Someone Has Died is a game where it's sort of an improv game about adjudicating a will of someone who has died. And it clicked immediately with me that it was like the perfect model for how my game might work. So now it's the sort of thing where I simultaneously have ideas of how mine would work, and yet knowing that I am essentially just copying another game. Anyway, so I actually had other stuff that I'll talk about, like I've been watching Netflix's Maniac and enjoying that. And also I played in a session of a tabletop RPG system called Rosette Diceless with a scenario called Still Waters Run Deep yesterday. But maybe I'll talk more about those in subsequent days, because I've already gone a while today. So in the meantime, I will talk to you all tomorrow for 5 more minutes. Bum, bum, bum.